Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to center stage Phocuswright research analyst, Alice Jong.
Back in the early 2000s, when some of the first Metasearch platforms first joined the scene, who would have guessed that one day Metasearch would become one of travel's biggest topics? And for good reason. Nearly half of US travelers now use Metasearch when shopping for travel products. Whether it's looking for flights or looking for hotels, consumers have really embraced the ability to compare options from multiple airline, hotel, and OTA websites just in one location. The rising popularity of Metasearch definitely has not gone unnoticed by the travel industry. Many of the industry's biggest players have found their way into this space, whether through mergers and acquisitions or through investments. In just the past year, since we last met here at the Phocuswright conference, two of the biggest OTAs have made some pretty serious Metasearch acquisitions. So Ctrip and Priceline both made pretty big acquisitions within the last year. And we all know Google wants this space with its hotel and flight search platforms. So we wanted to dig into the US travel Metasearch space and really see what was going on here. We partnered up with our friends at JumpShot, a digital analytics company, and we leveraged their clickstream data to really try and answer 4 key questions. How big is Metasearch in the US, and who are the biggest players? How is the usage trending, and who is growing the most? Next, we want to understand how qualified is the traffic that these Metasearch players are sending onwards into the digital travel funnel. And then downstream, who is it that's benefiting the most from this traffic? What kind of sites are seeing the highest conversion rates? Oh, and of course, what's going on with Google? So let's start with size. Who gets the most eyeballs? When it comes to flights, it's Google that leads, and for hotels, it's TripAdvisor. We index unique monthly visitors on a scale of 1 to 100 for comparison purposes, so we could look at the biggest Metasearch platforms in the US and understand how they stack up against each other. And here, as we look across the past 2 years, Google Flights has really gained momentum and since surpassed Kayak as of late 2015. On the hotel side, no big surprise here, right? TripAdvisor is way ahead of the pack. But we also know that many of the users going to TripAdvisor aren't necessarily there just for hotel Metasearch. Many are also there for the review content. Now let's look at referrals. Who's sending the most referrals, the most customers onwards to the downstream sites? With flights, it's Kayak that leads. And then hotels, once again, TripAdvisor takes the win. Here we look at the volume of Metasearch referrals to the top 20 downstream US travel websites. And overall, flight Metasearch referrals are on the rise, along with the traffic. Even though Google Flights has more eyeballs, it's not delivering as many referrals as Kayak is. So this really implies that Google has a larger share of customers that are not as far down in the travel funnel. So they have more of those window shoppers that are still looking around, but not quite as ready to book yet. But they are catching up. On the hotel side, referrals have been dropping off for Trivago over the past few months, whereas TripAdvisor is back on the rise. And this may very well be linked to their decision to scale back on their instant booking initiatives. So we've seen there's a lot of traffic. A lot of users are coming to these Metasearch platforms, and then we've seen there's a lot of referrals, so they're clicking through onwards. So where are all these referrals going? Who's getting the traffic? And then how is this traffic converting? How qualified is the traffic? Suppliers overall win for flight referrals, especially on Google. We do see with Kayak, they're sending a growing share of referrals over to the OTAs. And then in the world of hotels, who here would you say is the OTAs, and who here is the hotels? You probably already knew that it's the OTAs that get the lion's share of the hotel referrals. And what's interesting about Metasearch is that when it first came out, it was really considered an OTA antidote for suppliers. So a place that the hotels and the airlines could go to reach the consumer directly and compete against the OTAs. But as it turns out, for hotels, OTAs have really figured out how to win in the Metasearch space. So these referrals we're talking about, how qualified are they? Whose traffic is going onwards to book the most? In flights, it's Google. And then hotels, Kayak now leads. So looking at flights, even though we saw more referrals coming out of Kayak, it's Google's referral traffic that sees the highest rate of conversion. For hotels, Google historically also has the highest conversion rates. It's only this year that Kayak has started to sneak past them. So Google is delivering higher converting traffic, yet they deliver the fewest referrals. So what's going on here? We also did see that Google sends a higher share of referrals to the suppliers, so to the brand.com websites of the airlines and the hotels. And travelers that go directly to brand.com tend to be more ready to convert than those going to OTAs. And this holds true with our travel Metasearch travelers as well. So we see the referrals that go to the airline and to the hotel websites have the highest conversion rates. Overall, the conversion rates for flights are rising, and it is those travelers going to the airline websites that convert the most. So the airline conversion rates are more than double those of the OTAs. And there's various factors that contribute to this. We've seen in our studies for many, many years that the travelers who go to the airline websites versus the OTAs, they tend to be further down in the travel funnel, they tend to be older, they tend to be less price sensitive, and they tend to have stronger brand loyalty. These are all factors that really favor the airline suppliers. Similar story for the hotels. It's the hotel websites that have the highest conversion rates. But remember, we just saw that those websites also take a very small share of referrals, and OTA conversion rates are catching up. So this takes us to the question that we all love. What about Google? And in the case of Metasearch, what's the impact of Google growing its travel content and sometimes serving it right up on the general search pages? So we took a look at the general search traffic that's going to the top 15 to 20 downstream US travel websites. We looked at any search phrases that include the keywords flight or hotels. And we can see as Google's travel products continue to grow, they're also capturing a larger share of the traffic from the bigger Google funnel. So right from the top, general search, google.com, where so much of travel research begins. And that's true of flights, and it's even more true for hotels. So Google continues to pose a strategic risk to the OTAs, to Metasearch platforms, and to the airline and hotels that really want to drive more direct traffic. And so here we are, 15 years later, and Metasearch has grown so much by really putting the consumer front and center. It's no big surprise that Google and the rest of online travel would want to play in this arena. It continues to be a really dynamic space, and it's even moving into new verticals, including vacation rentals, tourism activities, and even multimodal transportation. No doubt there's many more changes to come in this space, and it's one that we at Phocuswright will continue to watch very closely. Thank you.
It's good to have choices, whether they are big, small, or midsize. With Hertz Ultimate Choice, you choose the car you want to drive. Hertz Ultimate Choice.